Welcome to Echoes of Ihsan, our deep dive into the heart of Islamic wisdom. And today, we're going to be tackling Sahih Bukhari, book 52, which is all about, fighting for the cause of Allah, Jihad. A bit of a heavy topic, and I think one that, a lot of people have misconceptions about. So I'm really looking forward to unpacking this with you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's such a rich and nuanced concept, and this book, it really does go beyond just the battlefield. You know what I mean? It explores all these different ways we can strive, like even just the internal struggles, the personal jihad, that's huge.
Absolutely. Like right from the start, we get this amazing story. Aisha, the Prophet's wife, she asked, "Oh, Allah's apostle, we consider jihad as the best deed. Should we not fight in Allah's cause?" I mean, can you imagine? Like the fervor, the desire to be part of something so significant.
Totally. It speaks to like the common understanding of jihad at that time, right? But the prophet's answer, it's so insightful, so unexpected. He tells her the best jihad for women is Hajj Mabrur.
Wait, so Hajj Mabrur, which is like
Yeah.
pilgrimage, that seems like a completely different kind of, action, a different kind of striving.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so powerful. Hajj Mabrur, it's not just about, physically going to Mecca. It's about that inner transformation, the striving for purification, the complete submission to Allah. You're following these rituals so meticulously. It takes such sincerity, such a willingness to sacrifice for something bigger than yourself.
So it's almost like saying the real battle, the real jihad, it starts within. It's about conquering your ego, your desires, all those limitations that hold you back.
You got it. And this idea, it pops up again in another hadith where this guy, he asks the prophet, hey, is there any deed that's equivalent to jihad, reward-wise? And the prophet's first response, it's so impactful. He's just like, nope, I don't think so. He's highlighting just how valuable, how significant striving in Allah's cause is.
But then he doesn't just leave it there, right?
Right. He elaborates and he says the highest form of jihad is when a believer strives his utmost in Allah's cause with his life and property. It's that complete, unwavering dedication, the willingness to put everything on the line.
So it's about more than just, physical fighting. It's about that inner fire, fighting for what you believe in, what's right, what aligns with Allah's will, no matter what.
And that's what jihad truly means at its core. It's striving, struggle in Arabic. It's about that exertion, that effort, both inside and outside, in the path of Allah.
Okay, I'm starting to see how many layers there are to this concept.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? How else is this idea of striving explored in the book?
Well, there's this one hadith that really paints a picture of this constant internal battle we're talking about. The prophet, he compares the mujahid, the one who strives, to someone who's constantly fasting and praying day and night. Imagine the discipline, the resilience that takes, the commitment.
It's like jihad is a 247 thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not a one-time battle. It's that ongoing commitment to purifying your intentions, to battling your ego, striving for righteousness in every moment.
Exactly. It elevates those everyday struggles, our internal battles with like temptation and negativity, right? It turns those into chances for us to grow spiritually. Like it's its own form of jihad. We all have those challenges. And this hadith, it tells us those struggles, they matter to Allah. They're part of our jihad.
Wow, that's actually really empowering. It's like even when we're struggling with our weaknesses, that can be a form of worship.
Yeah, and it emphasizes that true striving, it's not about being perfect. It's about making that constant effort, the never-ending striving to get closer to Allah.
This is so powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
it really changes how I see those everyday challenges.
Yeah.
Like those times I get frustrated or feel weak. It's a reminder that even those moments, they can have spiritual value if I approach them with the right intention.
While we're on the topic of striving, there's something else that really stands out in this book, this whole idea of knowledge and how that plays into jihad.
Oh, yeah, that's something I've always been curious about. Like, how does seeking knowledge, like, actually fit into this concept of, striving in the path of Allah?
Well, there's this one hadith that lays it out pretty clearly. The prophet, he says, seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. And it's not just, recommended or like a good idea. It's obligatory, like a must do.
Right.
That really elevates seeking knowledge, puts it up there with our core duties as Muslims.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's like saying that, trying to understand the world, looking for wisdom, figuring out how creation works, all that stuff. It's like a form of worship in itself.
Right. Learning, engaging with knowledge, it's seen as its own kind of striving. You know what I mean? It's about constantly pushing ourselves to understand more, to question what we think we know, and to deepen our connection with, like, all of Allah's creation.
I love that. It makes learning sound like this big adventure, a journey of discovery that's totally tied in with our spiritual growth.
And you know what? This thirst for knowledge, it connects to another powerful form of jihad that's in the book. Jihad of the tongue, they call it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of that, but I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure what it means. What's that all about?
It's about using our words the right way for good, you know? Speaking truth, fighting for justice, like speaking out against oppression, sticking up for the vulnerable, and upholding Islamic principles, but doing it bravely with conviction.
Ah, so it's not enough to just believe in something. You got to be able to explain it, defend it,
Right.
especially when things are tough or unfair.
You got it. There's a hadith where the prophet, he says, the best jihad is to speak a word of truth in front of an oppressive ruler. Like, imagine that courage. To stand up to power, even risking your own safety to speak truth to those in charge, that's a powerful form of jihad of the tongue.
It's a good reminder that staying silent when there's injustice happening, that can be almost as bad as participating in it, right? Like, we have to use our voices, fight for what's right, and challenge those systems that oppress people.
Right on. And it's not just about, like, those big, grand moments of defiance either, jihad of the tongue. It's also about how we talk to each other every day. It's about being mindful of the words we use, speaking with kindness and respect, avoiding gossip or saying things behind people's backs. It's about using our words to create understanding and bring people together.
It's easy to get caught up in the big picture, like fighting for a cause or whatever. But you're right, it comes down to the small stuff too.
Yeah.
Even just the way we talk to each other. That can be an act of striving as long as our intentions are pure.
Exactly. And just like that jihad of the tongue emphasizes using our speech responsibly, the book also talks a lot about, controlling our desires, resisting those temptations that try to pull us away from what's right.
Ah, so we're back to that idea of like the internal struggle we talked about earlier.
We are. There's this great hadith where the prophet, he says, a strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than a weak believer, and there is good in everyone. But cherish that which gives you benefit in the hereafter, and seek help from Allah, and do not lose heart.
It's like a reminder that, we're all still figuring things out. We all mess up. We all have moments where we give in to temptation. But the important thing is to recognize those weaknesses, to work on getting better, and to focus on the stuff that brings us closer to Allah.
Yeah, it's all about building that strength inside,
Right.
learning self-discipline, and resisting those urges that pull us off track, away from our values and what we believe in. It's an ongoing process, this constant striving to become better versions of ourselves.
That's really comforting, actually. Like, it's not expecting perfection, but the effort, the constant trying, that's what counts. The journey's just as important as the destination, right?
Totally. And that journey, it's often full of bumps in the road, which is why, this book, it also stresses being patient, being persistent, even when things get hard. Like, there's another hadith where the prophet says, the strong believer is better and is more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, though there is good in both of them. Be eager for what benefits you, seek help from Allah, and do not feel helpless.
Man, that one speaks to me. I've had my share of tough times, and it's easy to, feel totally overwhelmed, to get discouraged. But this hadith, it's a reminder that facing those challenges with, real strength and resolve, that's a huge part of striving in Allah's cause. It's about digging deep, leaning on our faith, and not giving in to despair.
And it's not just about, passively taking those hard times. The prophet, he's encouraging us to be proactive, to be eager for what benefits you, to look for solutions, to use our brains and what we have to get through those tough spots.
So it's about taking charge of our own lives, being resourceful, finding ways to make things better, but all while relying on Allah's guidance and support, right?
Exactly. It's about understanding that hard times, they're just a part of life, But how we react to them, how we navigate them with faith and resilience, that's what really shows our character and our dedication to Allah.
I like that. That's a good way to look at it. Instead of seeing those hard times as, roadblocks, we can see them as opportunities to make our faith stronger, to grow as people, and to lean on Allah even more.
For sure. And that leads us to another really important part of striving, sincerity. There's this hadith where the prophet, he says, whoever fights that nothing should be worshipped but Allah and believes in Allah and his apostle, then his blood and his property are inviolable except for a right reason according to Islam, and his reckoning will be with Allah.
It's not just about what you do, but why you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like the motivation behind our actions, it has to be pure. We're striving because we want to please Allah and follow his values, not for any other reason.
You got it. It's about making sure your intentions match your actions. True striving, it's rooted in sincerity and a real commitment to the core of Islam. It's not about wanting praise or worldly things. It's about seeking Allah's pleasure and His reward.
It's a reminder that everything we do on the outside, it reflects what's going on inside. So we got to work on purifying our intentions, making sure that everything we do, it comes from a genuine desire to serve Allah and live a life that's in line with His teachings.
And that idea of sincerity, it goes beyond our own actions. It also applies to how we treat others.
Oh, so now we're moving into the realm of like social responsibility, how our striving impacts our community and the people around us.
Exactly. There's this beautiful hadith where the Prophet says, whoever believes in Allah and the last day should not harm his neighbor. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day should entertain his guest generously. And whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak what is good or keep quiet.
That's such a clear and like compassionate guide for how we should behave. It emphasizes that, our faith isn't just about personal practices. It's got to show up in how we treat people, how we work towards a society that's fair and just.
It's saying that true striving means working to create a society where compassion, justice, and respect are the norm.
Yeah.
It's about seeing the inherent dignity of every human being, no matter what their faith is or where they come from, and treating them accordingly.
That message is so important right now, like in a world where there's so much division and intolerance, it's a reminder that our faith calls us to build bridges, to try to understand each other, and to actively work towards making the world a more harmonious and just place.
Absolutely. And as we pursue that justice and harmony, another key idea comes up: balance.
Balance, huh? Now that's interesting. How does that tie into the idea of jihad?
Well, there's this hadith where the Prophet, while he's praising the good stuff about striving in Allah's cause, he also says, hey, don't forget about your duties and responsibilities here in this world. You know what I mean?
So it's about finding that balance, right? Like between our spiritual goals and our obligations in everyday life. Our faith shouldn't make us withdraw from the world. We got to engage with it responsibly.
Exactly. Islam, it doesn't say you got to renounce the world or anything like that. Instead, it encourages us to participate, to fulfill our duties to our families, our communities, and ourselves. It's about finding that middle ground where our spiritual aspirations and what we do in this world, they work together. They create a life that's both harmonious and meaningful.
This really changes how I think about living a balanced life. It's not just about managing your time or juggling responsibilities. It's about putting intention and purpose into everything we do, even the mundane stuff. Even those everyday tasks, they can be acts of worship if we approach them with the right mindset within the ethical framework of Islam.
Absolutely. And this emphasis on balance, it applies to everything in our lives, like how we seek knowledge, how we use our words, how we treat others, even taking care of our own well-being.
So it's about striving holistically, seeing how every part of our lives is connected and realizing that true striving means trying to be the best we can be in all those areas.
Exactly. It's about nurturing ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually, striving to be the best versions of ourselves as individuals and as part of a community.
This is such a beautiful and inspiring picture of what it means to live a life guided by the idea of jihad. It's about striving for good in every way, inside and out, alone and together with others.
It's like creating a ripple effect, starting with our own hearts and actions and spreading out to our families, our communities, and the world. It's about helping to create a world that reflects those divine values of justice, compassion, and peace.
This has been an amazing conversation. It's really opened my eyes to how much jihad actually encompasses. It's so much deeper and more nuanced than just those images of battlefields that we often see. It's about this constant, multifaceted striving for excellence in all parts of our lives.
And it's a journey that we're all on, each in our own way. And that leads me to a question for you, our listener. Thinking about all these different facets of striving, where do you see opportunities to grow personally and make a difference in your own life?
As we've been talking about all these different sides of jihad, the internal struggles, the pursuit of knowledge, even the responsibility of our words, I can't help but think about the bigger picture, the community aspect. Sahih Bukhari has all these stories about the early Muslim community, how they work together, and I'm curious how that fits into this whole idea of striving.
That's a great point, and it's something that runs throughout the book.
Yeah.
The idea that individual striving becomes even stronger when it's a shared thing, like when everyone's working together towards something bigger than themselves.
It's like that saying, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
Each person striving, it adds up to something much bigger, more impactful when everyone's on the same page, working towards a common goal.
Exactly. And a perfect example of that is the Battle of the Trench. Remember that story? The Muslims were facing a much bigger army, way better equipped, so they decided to dig this huge trench around Medina to protect themselves.
Oh, yeah, I remember that story. They were totally outnumbered, outmatched, but the way they stuck together, their determination, is pretty amazing.
It really shows those Islamic principles of unity and cooperation. Everyone pitched in, no matter who they were or what they could do. They all helped dig that trench. It was a team effort, a shared sacrifice, and that's ultimately what led them to victory.
It's a good reminder that even when things are super tough, when we band together, pool our resources and efforts, we can overcome crazy obstacles.
And this principle of striving as a community, it goes beyond just like times of war or crisis. There are tons of hadiths that talk about the importance of helping those in need, supporting the less fortunate, building a fair and just society together. It's about realizing that our personal striving is tied to the well-being of the whole community.
So it's not just about, like, personal piety or being a good person individually. It's about a wider commitment to social responsibility, right? Taking care of each other, working towards a society where everyone can thrive.
Exactly. And this sense of shared responsibility, it's beautifully summed up in a hadith where the prophet, he says, the believers are like one body in their mutual love, mercy, and compassion. If one part of the body suffers, the whole body feels the pain.
Wow, that's a powerful image, the way it shows how connected we are, the empathy. It reminds me of that concept of Ubuntu, that African philosophy. It's all about our shared humanity, how interconnected we all are. We're not just isolated individuals. What happens to one of us affects us all.
You got it. And this hadith, it highlights that true striving, it means recognizing the needs of others, sharing their burdens, and celebrating their wins as if they were our own.
It's a reminder that everything we do, it has a ripple effect, right? It impacts the people around us. And when we strive for good, that positive energy, it spreads outwards, it helps create a more compassionate and just society.
And that brings us back to the heart of jihad, this multifaceted striving for goodness in all its forms, in our own hearts, in how we act, and in how we build our communities.
This has been an incredible journey, exploring this concept through Sahih Bukhari. We've seen how jihad is about personal struggle, seeking knowledge, being responsible with our words, and working together for social responsibility. It's been eye-opening.
It really is a holistic vision of striving, one that reminds us that our faith isn't just about what we believe, it's about how we live, how we continuously try to improve ourselves, and how we commit to building a world that reflects those divine values of justice, compassion, and peace.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm kind of in awe of how deep and broad this concept really is. It's so much more nuanced and profound than the, simplistic and often distorted way it's often portrayed.
I hope our exploration today has given our listeners a fresh perspective on what it truly means to strive in the path of Allah. It's a journey we all take, each of us in our own unique way, and together we're creating this tapestry of good that extends outward, touching countless lives.
And on that note, we'll bring our deep dive into Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 52, to a close. May this exploration inspire you to continue your own journey of striving, seeking knowledge, and contributing to a world that reflects the divine light within us all.